The following is a live broadcast of a Lone Star community radio program, recorded and broadcasted live on irlonestar.com, Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and facebook.com/irlonestar. For more information on this show, please visit our show page at irlonestar.com/shows. To sponsor or donate to this program, visit our donate page at irlonestar.com/donate, or email us at lscrstudios@gmail.com, or give us a call at 936-666-1084. Lone Star Community Radio production and broadcast is possible by folks like you. So sponsor and donate today.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC-LP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Extension Hour. I'm Amy Rustler, County Extension Agent, Family and Community Health. And you know what? Here I am, like my first few sentences, and I'm already almost starting to trip over my words, because today we're going to talk about the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force and the Community Help Expo that just happened. So I have Family and Community Health is my title. Community Help is the name of the website and the name of the expo event that we had. So, sometimes my tongue gets faster than my my mind. Anyway, so this is the Extension Hour, and we're here every Friday, 1 to 2 p.m., and we focus on our people, our programs, and our partnerships. And the Community Help Expo and the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force has been, a partnership, and it goes along with one of the programs that we have in mental health. And I feel like all of the people, that have been involved in the Community Help Expo have become my people too. So people, programs, partnerships, all about those things. So we have Justin Ulmer with us today, and Justin is a member of the governance board for the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force. So Justin, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, my name's Justin Ulmer, and I am originally from the Woodlands, Texas, and just recently moving to Conroe. My job is pastor of a new church plant called Little Flock Church, and we are actually going to be planting somewhere in the vicinity of Conroe. But first, we're going to sell our house down in the Woodlands and get situated up here. We're currently a community of house churches. We meet in living rooms. That's a little bit about who I am. If you want to know more, ask me some specifics.
All right. How did you get involved with the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention?
Yeah, so over a year ago, May, not this most recent, but previous, I heard about a gathering of our community coming together, county leaders and faith-based representatives, to address this issue of Montgomery County, at the time having the highest rate of suicides in any county in Texas. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I have been speaking about and preaching about for a couple of years now to the student ministry that I used to lead at Woods Edge Community Church in the Woodlands. I've been a student pastor there for 7 years, and our young people wrestle with this question. It is proposed as a solution to their problems, self-harm, self-mutilation, and suicide. And I just see that as absolutely wrong. And so we've been preaching about that and ministering to kids about that with some great success for the last couple of years. And when I heard that our whole community was going to come together for an establishment of better resources, better community help, I knew I wanted to be involved.
Right. And so Justice of the Peace, Judge Mack, kind of spearheaded it, and he tells us, a great story. And he is just such a humble man, where he always is giving credit and thanks to everybody else. But he really has been a driving force to make this come together. And he was actually on the show a few weeks ago, and we talked a little bit with him about why and how he got involved and how the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force started and what the goal was. But I think that it's very exciting to see it kind of develop organically. And the governance board, including Judge Mack, there's 6 of you. And I think it's a really nice representation of different parts of the community. So there's some in private practice, there's schools, and faith-based community is kind of what you represent as well. So I think that it's been a great thing that they've done that. So we had our Community Help Expo on Thursday night, it was Thursday, November 12th is when we hosted that, and we do anticipate having ones in the future. But at that event, we did have a panel discussion, and one of the questions that or the question that I asked you in particular was about the faith-based communities and what do they have to offer in behavioral health and suicide prevention. And so if you don't mind, do you mind sharing that answer one more time?
Not at all. So I feel like one of the things that the church has to offer, that faith-based communities have to offer, is that community. And community in its truest sense. And that's been something that I have spent a lot of time considering and reconsidering in the past 7 or 8 months since COVID has kind of blown up everyone's norms of community. Mm-hmm. And when, my own church, which was a large church in the Woodlands, could no longer meet, and so many churches across the globe are closing their doors, one of the things that we are known for offering most, we were stripped of the ability to offer that, which is just community. And so I went back to Scripture to find out, so what has previous generations done in times of strife? And I found this Scripture that is beloved and known by many in Acts chapter 2 that describes the early church, the early community that was established after Jesus. And in it, we have these amazing, beautiful, fantastic, large group gatherings that we all are familiar with and love, where hundreds, if not thousands, come together and sing and pray and listen to a sermon. But then we also have, maybe even more so, these smaller gatherings that are denoted where believers are coming together, and unbelievers too, in homes, in living rooms, in small settings where intimacy can happen, where there's a sense of knownness. And I just thought, well, if we can't meet in our large buildings, and that's not responsible or safe at this time, why not go back to the beginning? Why not go back to this model of just me personally, as Justin during COVID? I missed going to church. Mm-hmm. I missed community. I knew I needed some people to be around and to be myself with, to be elated about something or to be devastated about something. I needed people. And so I looked at this verse and I realized I've got people across the street from me. I've got neighbors that I think would enjoy this too. And so we invited our neighbors into our living room during COVID and just said, let's just talk about the Bible for a bit. Let's pray for each other. Let's listen to each other's needs. And having done that now for a couple months and having grown both in the gathering size, but then the number of gatherings around the community, we're just getting back to the basics, or trying to, of what it means to be a community where we love each other, we listen to each other, we celebrate each other, we pray for each other. And I think that, at least from my perspective in this little corner of Texas, I'm seeing that churches all over America are feeling like we need to get back to this idea of offering the community a place for community. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like that is what churches have to offer, but we're getting back to a purer sense of it. And I am loving our journey on it. Like, I get to go to church 3 times a week right now in different parts of our county, and every group is distinct and yet same, and they are all fantastic. Mm-hmm. And so what do churches have to offer? They have community to offer, and this beautiful recipe in Acts chapter 2 of what it can look like. And as we have just obeyed what that says, we're having a great time getting to know each other, and we're seeing really cool stuff happen as a result. Mm-hmm. And I just love for all of our churches that are either opening their doors again or timidly so because of we don't want to rush it, we want to be responsible and safe, like that's good things. But we can all offer this, just open our own doors to each other.
Right. And relating that sense of community back to behavioral health and suicide prevention. So one of the things that happens when people contemplate suicide is that they feel alone. They feel like no one cares. And so that sense of community really helps reinforce the idea that people do care. Yes. And you're not alone. And those things as well. Yeah. Yeah. So, and you were loved. So you made these T-shirts for the event, for the Community Help Expo. So I'm showing it off today. Yeah. Just to remind, but it reminds people you're loved. And because sometimes the mental illness can lie to us. Yeah. And those voices in our heads tell us that we're not loved and no one really cares when they do.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So the mission statement of our church is threefold. It's be loved, love, and make love known. And if you don't know that you're loved, how can you go and love other people? How can you make love known to other people? Right. And so it really is the foundation, just knowing this is a safe place for me to be broken. And I think that and I can only speak for myself, but having been a pastor at a mega church, I have probably done my fair share of putting out a persona that everything is beautiful and nice here all the time, and so come ready for beautiful niceness. And yet the church is called to be a place for the broken and the disillusioned and the disheartened. And so a phrase that we have adopted both at my previous church but also now at Little Flock is, your brokenness is welcome here. We want people to come in knowing you can come in just a mess and you're going to be loved here. And I think that every single person wrestling with depression or suicidal thoughts, that is the message they need to hear. Your brokenness is welcome here. You are absolutely not alone.
Yeah. And I think that idea of beauty and brokenness, some Mosaics of Mercy is also involved, and that's kind of a little bit of their theme. And then the Community Help Expo, our keynote speaker was Kevin Hines, and that was a lot of his message as well. In fact, the title of his presentation was Cracked, Not Broken. But it's still the idea of feeling like we're not enough and we're broken and maybe no one cares, but there is beauty in that. Yeah. So speaking of the Community Help Expo, we have more things to talk about. We want to kind of do a little bit of a recap about that. And speaking of beauty, one of the things that we want to mention is art. There's beauty in art, and that's kind of where one of the focuses that you had with that Community Help Expo and in other parts of your ministry. And so we want to talk more about that. But we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll come back in just a few minutes. But this is the Extension Hour, where we talk about our people, our programs, and our partnerships. And I'm so excited and so happy to have you here as a people in a program and a partnership. You're not a program or a partner, but you're a people. But you're,
I'll take it.
Yeah, it all goes together. So we'll be right back after these few PSAs.
From the beginning, the main purpose of the Cooperative Extension Service has been to change human behavior by teaching people how to apply the results of scientific research. By utilizing a holistic, multi-level approach, Extension family and community health programs encourage health and well-being for everyone. Addressing values, concerns, and needs with reliable science-based information, Extension programs help people lead healthier lives. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Welcome back. This is the Extension Hour. I'm Amy Ressler. I've got Justin Ulmer with me today, and we are talking about behavioral health and suicide prevention. We're talking about being loved. We're talking about brokenness and beauty. So many things that are related to behavioral health and suicide prevention. And so one of the ways that Extension got involved in the behavioral health and suicide prevention task force is, every county has an Extension service, and so I serve here in Montgomery County, and when I heard that the task force was forming, I was like, we need to be involved in that. We need to be part. So, came to participate and ended up being on a couple of different work groups, and it was just really very encouraged to see the participation, in our community in so many different groups. So we ended up with 12 different work groups that are focusing on specific parts of behavioral health and suicide prevention, because we know there's not a one-size-fits-all kind of answer, and different people need different things. So the work groups, we're participating on those. But in Extension, we have had an initiative to work on mental health issues, because our title, Community Health, Family and Community Health, health, mental health, behavioral health, that's all part of being healthy. And so we're helping Texans lead healthier, better lives through the programming that we do. So it seemed like a perfect fit for us. And so I was telling some of the team leaders at the state level about the great things that were happening here in Montgomery County with the task force. And they had mentioned that they had been doing this. They had a grant from Rebuild Texas. And part of that grant was to implement a couple of conferences to encourage behavioral health, mental health awareness. And they did one in Amarillo, and so our event was kind of patterned after the one that they did in Amarillo. But of course, we're in Montgomery County, so we got to do things our way, right? We ended up renaming that, and because in Amarillo it was called Peace of Mind Conference, but here in Montgomery County we call it the Community Help Expo, and that was kind of, if I remember correctly, that was was your suggestion, because you guys had already been working on a website. So you're on the task force with marketing, communications, and technology. So you developed this website, communityhelp.org. So it just makes sense that becomes the expo, right? So
right.
Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I'm a huge fan of less is more, and I love thinking about domain names that explain as clearly as possible exactly what you're doing. And so community help is the idea that was being just really, it was saturated in everybody's speech, and it just so happened that it was available. So we were able to purchase that domain, and it is what we long to do. One of the reasons to a question you asked earlier about why did you want to be involved was the idea of a county as big, as influential, as wonderfully diverse as Montgomery coming together to tackle a single issue is so exciting to me. To come together as a community to offer help. And so we developed this website, which is still under construction, but now live with some resources, with many more to come, is that if anyone is struggling with any sort of behavioral health, mental illness, suicidal tendencies, ideation, whatnot, they can go to this one place, communityhelp.org, and get exactly that, help from their community. And they can find either a church that they can go to, they can find a counselor that they can sit and talk with, they can find a group, just a one-stop shop for all the things that are available in Montgomery County.
Yep. So the communityhelp.org, and so then the Community Help Expo. So also driving that reminder for people, and like you said, simpler is better. So just remembering community help. So communityhelp.org is the website. Community Help Expo is what we did. And a really cool part of the expo that we haven't talked about just a whole lot in some of our previous sessions was the art exhibit. So you are the communication, technology, marketing. So communication is really an interest, like that just by itself. That's a very interesting topic. But so communication, you can communicate in way more ways than just words.
Yes.
So art is a great way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right?
Right.
And so art is a big part of my own personal story. All the way back in high school when I also struggled, as many of our young people do, with ideas of self-harm as a way of processing the pain that I couldn't put words to. Thankfully, I discovered poetry all the way back as a teenager, and it was just a way to write some, rough poems, but of taking what I was feeling on the inside and getting it out. And whether no one ever read those poems or they were published, as in some cases, it was a way for me to talk about what I was feeling in a way that was creative rather than destructive. And so that has stayed with me. And when I was kind of at my lowest point before I became a pastor and yet a believer, I struggled with alcoholism. And I remember clearly one night just on my knees, having tried in vain for maybe years, Amy, to quit drinking with no success. I just asked the Lord, I know you can help me stop this, and I know I can't stop this, so please do. And it was the simplest prayer, and yet after I prayed it, fell asleep and woke up the next day, and the desire to drink was gone. And part of that prayer was an acknowledgement of I am an alcoholic, and feeling like the Lord in that moment communicated, I didn't create you as an alcoholic, I created you as an artist. And so after I was freed up from alcoholism, rather than going and drinking at the end of every workday, I would go out and with a camera and I would look at nature and I would look for beautiful things instead of just the destructive tendencies that I had embraced before. And it's just amazing how you can just change the way you look at something, change your perspective, and see something beautiful where before you had seen something dark. And I love the way that art is such a efficient medium for us to express our hurt and our pain. The art exhibit at the expo was so wonderful. I wish everybody could have experienced it. We had artists from all over the county submit their works, and each of them dealt specifically with behavioral health or overcoming some sort of pain. And it was a way for them to communicate what they were wrestling with in a creative way that not only was a benefit and a blessing to the artist, but then it goes on to minister to encourage others. Oh, I can draw something. I can paint something. All of us are capable of taking a good photograph once in a while. And so I love that connective tissue of art. Everybody can appreciate some kind of it, and all of us can create some version of it. I don't care if your creativity is making an awesome spreadsheet. You and I were made by a creator, and that first attribute of creativity is something all of us have. And it's a great way to use what you've been given to help process pain and suffering and stuff in a way that produces something rather than takes something away. And so I don't know if you'd like me to share a little bit about the exhibits themselves at the expo. So we had artwork from one gentleman named Andy Szabo, and he had painted this picture of this gray dog using charcoal, and it's out of this dog's mouth is coming wires and plugs and cell phones and earbuds. And that was his way of using his creativity to kind of address what he feels strongly, as I do as well, that a major contributor for our young people's mental health these days, or at least the lack thereof, is how much time we spend on social media and our devices. I love technology. I use it every day, but there's a monster difference between device use and device abuse. And you can see that just by looking at the statistics of the mental health in our country really took a turn around 2006. And this is something we've talked about before in our sermons. But 2006, the trends for suicide in America just went off the charts. And if you look at what happened in the world in 2006 or around it, it was the release of the smartphone. It was when we all started living in these little false realities instead of in reality. And so this piece is so provocative and powerful, and it communicates how it's a scary thing to get lost in your device, and they're there 24/7. And so that was one piece that people really resonated with. Another one was a picture that was painted of Robin Williams, where there were these beautiful colors on one side of his face, and as the eye naturally kind of spans to the right on his face, the colors disappear and it just fades to black. And we all know Robin Williams' story to some degree, and how it was this one of the most happy people in Hollywood, just had an amazing giftedness in making people laugh, and then seemingly out of the blue took his own life. And that piece of art just evoked such a emotional response from people because they recognized that story, and they recognized just with the use of color that powerful message of how things can go from one end of the spectrum to the other in such a short period of time. And so I loved how many people had, in a variety of ways, able to communicate something that spoke to other people just using their natural gifts and abilities. Art is something that, as you said, it kind of spans our vocabulary. It goes a little deeper, and you can just look at a picture and have a full-on conversation right there about a very heavy topic in a way that feels a little safer because you're focusing on this piece of art. I could talk at length. I've probably already gone past the amount of time you expected for that answer, but I love how art is so useful in helping us processing pain.
And I shared with you when I was working on my master's degree, one of the classes that I took was in art therapy. And so there is a whole specialization in mental health that's related to art therapy because of the idea that people can express things through art that they cannot express through words. And one of the interesting things that I remember about that class too was how sometimes people feel like they have to be talented to be able to draw. And I think that you alluded to this a little bit when you just started talking about how the talent, but just you don't necessarily have to have the talent. It doesn't necessarily have to be for anybody to see it or enjoy it. It's just a matter of getting it out and putting it somewhere else. And so one of the things that I remember about the class, they were talking about sometimes really talented artists, people who draw well or paint well or whatever, don't do as well with art therapy because maybe they've learned how to mask it with their talent, which, we kind of do that, I guess, in life and other things as well. Okay, so, we've got more that I want to talk about, but before we get too much further into another topic related to the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force and the Community Help Expo, we're going to take a break. This is the Extension Hour. We're on 104.5. 106.1 on Lone Star Radio. Worldwide, Justin, irlonestar.com. And then we're on Facebook Live. And then all of the shows are also saved on YouTube, so people can go back and watch those if they would like to do that. Okay, so we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a minute.
What can the Better Living for Texans program do for you? You can learn how to increase your consumption of fruits and vegetables, choose foods that are relatively inexpensive and good to eat, make your food dollars last longer, prepare quick, nutritious meals, help your children learn how to eat healthier snacks, and much more. Our program is committed to helping people like you improve your health through providing research-based nutrition education in a friendly, cost-free, and relaxed environment. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service has been dedicated to educating Texans for over a century. In 1915, the Extension Program was established under the federal Smith-Lever Act to deliver university knowledge and agricultural research findings directly to the people. Ever since, AgriLife Extension programs have addressed the emerging issues of the day, serving diverse populations across the state. Texans turn to Extension for solutions in horticulture, agriculture, 4-H and youth, and family and consumer sciences. Extension agents respond not only with answers, but also with resources and services that result in significant returns on investment to boost the economy. Join us Fridays at 1 o'clock for the AgriLife Extension Hour.
And welcome back to the Extension Hour. I'm Amy Ressler. So I had to take a little bit of a break because we were talking about the art and the powerful messages of art. And, and like you said, the picture of Robin Williams was very moving because it is so recognizable. But there's a lot of other aspects of art that are, maybe people don't, it's not like a really obvious message. And the other thing that I think that is so cool about art is that it speaks to you, and so every person that's seeing it maybe sees something a little bit different, and maybe it speaks to them in a different way, and it just, without someone telling you this is what you're supposed to see in this picture, you see kind of what you need to see in that. So were there other pieces that really spoke to you?
Yeah, but it would maybe sound a little self-serving. Some of the pieces I liked were mine.
Yep.
So when I started going out and taking all those photographs after realizing that God had something better for me, I realized that I really enjoyed doing that. And I was going to say that to your point earlier too, but part of the danger with art is that it does have an audience, and then you can start making art for the sake of what other people might think. But first and foremost, it should be done for yourself. It should be it's your gift, and you should use it in a way that moves you towards a healthier place of processing your feelings and just enjoying your day. And so when I started taking photographs, one of the things that I love to do that made me feel better and process things I was going through was to couple pictures with scripture. And I am a horrible memorizer of verse, of anything really. And so if I find that if I have an image to go with a bit of scripture, I have a much higher likelihood of remembering it. And so as I would create these little printed pictures of my artwork with scripture on the back, it would just give me something I could carry in my pocket and find that would be an encouragement for me or someone else throughout the day. And people really responded well to that. They loved the idea of it. And this has been 15 years in the making, but we have a app now, my family and I, called the 7 Apples app. And I think there's a little screenshot that you guys can use during this. But on this I think we're pushing 1,100 photographs of either pictures I've taken or photos I've taken of my friends' art that have verses accompanying them, so that these devices, which so often are used for just kind of like brainless activity or maybe looking at things that don't make you feel absolutely wonderful after the fact, we're trying to redeem our device time by creating this tool, the 7 Apples app. And not only are there 1,000 images coupled with unique scriptures, but every image can serve as a personal devotional tool or a group Bible study. And so one of the things that we do at our church Little Flock is that we will take one of these little prayer cards with just a digestible amount of scripture, and we will sit around and we will read it together, and we will ask these questions of each other, hold each other accountable to the answers. And so we had these prayer cards out at the expo, and I loved the responsiveness of people that picked these up and just really felt ministered to by them. And it didn't just give them something that encouraged them personally, but then they can go and share them with other people. I've had strangers hand me a prayer card from time, only a handful of times, but still. And that's my
cool.
end goal as far as producing them, is that people would take what they need in the moment and then give them away. I love the idea of art that you can carry around in your pocket and share with other people that might be having a rough moment.
Yeah. And that you've got an app for it, and we've got a graphic to show what that looks like for folks that are interested, so that you can use the app. And then you mentioned the cards are available as well, but you have to actually physically be there, right, for that. So tell us, how do people find that app? What's it called?
Yeah, so it's called the 7 Apples app, and 7 Apples is one word, and you can find it on the Apple platform and the Android platform. So go to Google Play and type in 7 Apples. It's free, and boom, you got it. There's no ads, which is great that we don't have to have that. And then you can find it at the iTunes store as well. It's that easy.
And why 7 Apples? Why 7?
God, that's a short and a long answer. I don't know.
Okay.
I spent an entire day at my office in my former life of real estate, asking the Lord, what do you want me to call this photography scripture thing? And it was the picture perfect thing where there's all the crumpled up paper around the wastebasket of failed ideas. And it wasn't until the very end of a long day where I just said, I don't know what to call this. And in my mind just went 7 Apples. And I'm like, that'll work. And so whenever anybody asks, I just kind of give credit. God named it, at least that's all I can answer for. But what I love about it is it always evokes that question. Yeah. And so it serves its purpose.
There you go. Okay, so tell us a little more about some of the reason and how art plays a part in addressing behavioral health and suicide prevention.
It's okay. Sorry, Judge. I'll call you later.
Yeah, we're looking at Justin's phone because Judge Wayne Mack is calling.
We love you, buddy.
Yeah. we could put him on the air.
No, because he's doing personal stuff today. I'll call you in a minute. So your question, tell us a couple more reasons why and how art can be used.
Right.
So I'll just speak from my own personal experience. Having run a student ministry of young people and seeing the value personally and amongst others of art in processing pain, we began an art ministry, which I'm still curious to see how the Lord will kind of unveil that for now an adult church, a family church. But we would have kids stay after on Sundays almost every single week. And we would either give them a medium that we would encourage them, like today we're painting, or today we're taking photographs, or today we're going to create a piece of art with whatever medium you want based on this verse. And sitting around and doing art together is really powerful as well. And we see that even on a fun scale with regard to all the little pop-up shops of like, come and have a glass of wine and paint a picture kind of thing. It's a really healthy thing to do, to be creative, and you always have something to show after the fact. And so I think that if I was speaking to somebody personally to answer that question that might be wrestling with some unforgiveness today or just some sort of pain, rather than to do something destructive, I would encourage them, like, can you write? Can you paint a picture? Maybe your art is just you shoot a great basketball. I'm sure that's not how it's supposed to be said, but go out there and do something creative, and ideally with some other people. It's this, again, this beautiful connective tissue that we all can appreciate and to some degree create something. And it's just a powerful thing to be feeling as destructive as we can, especially when we're alone, to choose to do something creative, constructive, with other people. And so art ministry was a way that we did that with our young people that was very, very effective and rewarding. And we would even use their art and we would sell it every year at a little church fundraiser, and they would create art all year long, and then they would sell it to raise money for mission trips. So it's just this beautiful cycle of life, of breathing life into people and reminding somebody, I have value because I took my pain and I made this thing, even if it only meant something to that person. Yeah.
So the Community Help Expo, the art exhibit was a great part of that, and that was one of those quiet, introspective kind of thing, right? So they were it was in the hallway, so people could just kind of go look at their leisure and didn't have to necessarily process a lot of words, right?
Yeah.
But the rest of the Community Help Expo was a lot of words. We had 4 excellent speakers, and then our keynote speaker as well, and then the panel discussion I thought was really very insightful to help kind of shed light on why and the people that are participating in the governance board and the work groups and all of that. What would you say is what kinds of things about the expo touched your heart?
I'll be honest. One of the things that touched my heart was that it even happened.
Yeah.
When we began planning this thing, and working on this for the past really year, but intensively for 3 to 6 months, we were anticipating such a crowd that we were wondering, so do we need to get a large tent for outside, et cetera? Like we were thinking this place can hold 2,500 people and we're going to be busting out the seams, and COVID. And so that was just really rough that we were not able to have that multi-thousand person draw because folks are concerned about their health, and I get it. Yeah. The fact that we were faithful with little, that we said, look, we've done this work, and even if only a handful of people come, those are the people that are going to need to be there that day. So for me, what was a victory is that we went ahead and hosted the event, and we did have several hundred folks. We had over 1,000 view online, and you so rarely hear in instances like this that are deeply personal, the wins, the victories. But even on the day, we had a gentleman that came and, is my understanding, was feeling in a very dark place that morning, heard about this event and attended and made a decision for life. If that was the only impact this event had, and I know it's not, there was more, it would have been worth it. And so that was a highlight for me. Another highlight was, again, just seeing what this event represented. We had people from all over the county come. They were mingling with each other. They were sharing ideas. They were sharing programs and resources. They were making connections. They were having aha moments of, you exist and you provide this and you're right down the street from me. I can't believe this. I'm coming and now I'm going to let other people know about it too. And so just the community aspect of it and the connective tissue now that's between all of those folks and their organizations, it just really fueled the fire of, we have a lot to offer to our community, even if it is just simply community. And so that was a highlight for me too. I also particularly enjoyed the keynote speaker, Kevin Hines. His testimony was profound. Anytime anyone can stand up in front of a group of people and share that level of brokenness and, I have made mistakes and yet see the good in it and help others see it in such a humble way. I wish, I know people were impacted. I was impacted by a story, but I wish that room had been full. But next year, right?
Yeah. Well, and so as you mentioned, we did it in person very safely.
For sure.
So, kind of a nice thing about having a relatively small crowd in person in this huge room. It was easy to keep your distance from each other, to maintain that social distancing, and people were wearing masks as they should and all of that kind of thing. But that connection that you mentioned among all of the organizations that are here to offer, because one of the things that we hear often, we hear this a lot about just extension, like, I didn't know you guys exist, and you guys do stuff with mental health too, like what? So there's a lot of resources that are available in our community, just here in Montgomery County, that people just don't even know are available, that exist. So just getting that word out. One of the work groups is building stronger communities, and that's kind of their focus is trying to get a stronger network and provide that communication about what is available in the county. And then another thing that I would mention too, you mentioned that there was probably close to 1,000 people at some point that were viewing online through Zoom, through Facebook Live. So I guarantee that not all of those people were from Montgomery County specifically. So our reach was far beyond just right here. Because behavioral health, suicide knows no boundaries. It's not specific to just one set of people or one type of or group or in a certain place. It's everywhere. So being able to have that outreach was pretty amazing.
It really was. And again, I mean, suicide being the second leading cause of death in America, that's insane. But that means everybody, all of us are impacted. All of us have some sort of relation to it. And so we should all be talking about it. We should all be aware of the right questions to ask if somebody feels a little like they're having a rough day, like just asking, are you okay? But looking them in the eye and not just asking, how's your day, but how are you? And if they pause, if they give an answer that even indicates there's more like pressing in.
So there were the idea of having the ability to present virtually and for people to participate from wherever they were at. So I do know one of our work group members actually had emailed earlier in the day, not going to be able to make it. I've got COVID. And we had Kelly Locke was on the show once, and we were talking about preparing for the unexpected and resiliency and that kind of thing. And she said one of the things that they had started doing in their family was, thank you, COVID, for being grateful for the things that they've been able to see as a result of, that they might not have seen otherwise because of COVID. So, I think the opportunity to reach so many more people, we can say thank you, COVID, because we might have reached more people than we would have otherwise. But yeah, overall, I think that it was a really great event. I'm looking forward to doing future ones. And I'm looking forward to our last segment in just a minute or so. We're going to talk just a little bit more. So I'm going to give you a chance, start thinking of like your top 5 things that you would want to leave with people. Just something that helps folks in terms of behavioral health, suicide prevention, what we're all about. But we're going to take a break, and we will be back in just a minute. You can even call Judge Mack back if you need to.
I should.
All right. So we'll be back right after this. This is the Extension Hour, 104.5, 106.1.
A Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
From the beginning, the main purpose of the Cooperative Extension Service has been to change human behavior by teaching people how to apply the results of scientific research. By utilizing a holistic, multi-level approach, Extension family and community health programs encourage health and well-being for everyone. Addressing values, concerns, and needs with reliable science-based information, Extension programs help people lead healthier lives. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
And welcome back. This is the Extension Hour. I'm Amy Ressler. I'm talking to Justin Ulmer. And so this is the Extension Hour. We're helping Texans make their lives better. And Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force, I think, is all about helping Texans make their lives better as well. So because we are an educational agency, I always like to have something educational in our discussion, which I feel like we have. We talked a lot about how art can help people that are suffering, and we've talked about a lot of other different things with behavioral health. But so now it's your turn. Well, I mean, yeah. So just to summarize it, like last top 5 tips, top 5 things that you want people to remember when we're talking about behavioral health, about suicide prevention, about the work that the task force is doing.
Yeah. Well, I would say the main thing, and again, we do live in the information age, the digital age, and so the resources I'll throw out there real quick, they're going to be online ones, but visiting communityhelp.org and finding the resources that are there and knowing that there are more on the way, but we already have an established page, and that's a way for you to find information, for you to get connected, and for you to sign up to volunteer. As you mentioned earlier, we have these 12 work groups, everything from military connected to marketing and communications, and more. We would love to expand those groups. And so if you're listening today and not just needing help, but wanting to provide, please go and sign up to volunteer and see what we have been working on. It might be that the help you need today is already on there.
Before you go too much further, so just to make sure that everyone understands what that website is, so it's www.communityhelp.org, communityhelp.org.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
We talked about faith-based communities, and as a pastor, I have to put it out there, but if you haven't been to church in a while, I would encourage you to find a place that works for you. Little Flock Church is coming to Conroe. We are establishing little house church gatherings, and if you would like to find out more about us, you can go to littleflock.church. That's our website, www.littleflock.church. Even if it's just to welcome us to town, we are excited to be here. But there are, we live in the Bible Belt. There are churches on every corner, and many of them, as I shared earlier, are feeling called to have a healthier offering or a more widespread offering of these smaller, intimate communities. They might be called community group, small group, house church, whatever it is. But that's where life change happens, is when you're with a group of people that you know, I'm with these people and they're mine and I'm theirs, and we're going to walk this out together. And so I would encourage you to find yourself at church home or come and check us out. We would love to talk to you. We talked about art as a healthy medium. In addition to the free app we mentioned, if you don't have a smartphone or maybe you have restrictions, you can also just find us on the web at 7apples.art, A-R-T. And I mentioned that resource in addition because there is a sermon series labeled on that page, The Gospel According to 21 Pilots. And this is a 35-message sermon series built on the music of 21 Pilots. And particularly young people really gravitate towards that. But it's received national recognition as being a sermon series that people have written to us and said, I was looking for a way to take my life tonight online. And I found that sermon, and I listened to it, and I changed my mind. I don't say that because we made it. I say it because it is a very valuable resource that we have heard really works and ministers to people. And so you can find that whole sermon series at 7apples.art, and it's got some cool music in it too. And then I think last thing that I would leave with, and you can ask a follow-up, we don't have to end there, but still is just asking that question that we are all hearing more and more, but to actually put some feet on your faith and ask it. Step out of your comfort zone. Are you okay? How are you doing? People need to know that they're seen. People need to know that they're heard. And if we are having just even a little bit of a better day than the people around us, we should take advantage of that and extend that love to someone else and see how they're doing. Even right now today, as we're talking about this topic of behavioral health, suicide prevention. It's hard to listen to those words and not think of someone that we know that might be having a tough time. If you at any time during this broadcast, or maybe just right now, are like, I really need to reach out to Stephen. I really need to call Judy. That gentleman the other day that gave me his card, I told him I'd follow up and see how he's doing. Like, whatever the case, if you know anyone that's coming to your mind during this broadcast, what does it cost you to throw them a phone call or a text or a message or walking across the street and saying, I've been thinking about you. How are you doing? Are you okay? And see where that goes.
Yeah. Okay, so follow-up question.
Yeah.
Which get really deep here in the last few minutes.
Bring it on.
All right. So what if you're not okay? What if someone asks you, are you okay? And you're not okay. But you're not ready. You don't know how to express the words to say that you're not okay.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for those folks?
Something that's really ministered to me lately as I've thought about this big question is what would Jesus do? Another old question. I think one of Jesus's primary attributes when he was here on earth was as comforter. And so offering comfort. Sometimes I don't have the right words, and I'm a pastor. It's my job, right? Aren't I supposed to have the right words? And maybe all I have to offer in that moment is to listen without judgment, and maybe just throw an arm around somebody's shoulder and say, I don't know what to say. That is horrible, but I want you to know that I'm here for you. And the other thing that you could do if it feels a little more urgent is, hey, if they have a way to take their life that they've expressed and you don't know what to do with it, but they've shared with you, you're now a safe place for them. Commit to stay with them until they get the help that they need.
Mm-hmm.
Make that call. 911, your local hospital, a counselor will pick up the phone. But when we hear someone's problem, to just say, well, have a nice day, and to move on, we haven't really done much of anything. If you are truly not okay, and I'm asking how you're doing, I owe it to you to walk that out to the end. So I would say go the extra mile. The are you okay is the beginning of the conversation, not the end.
Mm-hmm. And so what if you're the one who is not okay?
As Kevin Hines put it in his talk this week, having learned the hard way, he committed, even to us afresh as an audience, years after his attempted end. If I know that I'm not okay, I need to say something. I need to speak up. And if the first person that I go to does not help me, I will go to the next. And if they don't help me, I will go to the next, because your life is worth it. You matter enough to keep asking for help. So if you are listening today and you are in that dark place and you feel like nobody cares, one, hugwash, but two, ask for the help that you need. Man, if you need to message me at littleflock.church, I will talk to you. But somebody out there, someone you know, cares enough to do something in response. And so ask for that help, and then ask again, because you're worth it.
Thanks. The other thing I would add to it too, so Kevin Hines he uses the hashtag #BeHereTomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's something that you just need to look forward to tomorrow, so maybe sign up for a class. It doesn't have to be like a heavy, life-changing class. It can just come to one of our cooking classes, or learn a little bit more about nutrition, or just something to look forward to the next day. And then also the idea of helping others. You need to be here to help others as well. So it's another helpful message there. Okay, Justin, I've really appreciated you being here today. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. Thanks for being part of the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force and on the governance board, and everything that you did to make the Community Help Expo a success. And then we will also, I'm looking forward to the next one we do. We learned a lot, I think, from this one. And so, thank you, COVID. It was kind of smaller than maybe we expected, so we were able to kind of see how it would work, and we can make it even better in the future. So we will be working on doing those kinds of things. And then, as we mentioned, communityhelp.org. It's a website it's in process. So, but it'll be built out and available with lots of really helpful information.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So we will be back next Friday here on the Extension Hour, and I think we'll probably we'll talk about behavioral health and suicide prevention a few times, I'm sure, because we're all about helping Texans make their lives better. And thank you again for being on the show today. I'm Amy Ressler, County Extension Agent for Family and Community Health, whatever. And this is the Extension Hour.
Thanks, Amy.
Today's show was recorded and broadcasted live on irlonestar.com, Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and all rights and ownership are reserved to Lone Star Community Radio. For more information regarding this program and Lone Star Community Radio, visit us online at irlonestar.com. Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, serving the community with local programming on TV, radio, and online. If you enjoyed today's program, please support us by sponsorship or starting your own show. Contact us today by phone or text at 936-666-1084 or email the station at lscrstudios@gmail.com.